we go! Next arc, let's do this! Season 29, Episode 1, Agency Capture. Jake is captured by a mysterious agency called the Unknown Agency, which seems to be filled with people completely lacking in emotion. Jake later finds out that these are synthetic people made to be nameless nobodies, but he has no idea what purpose they serve. But he meets one that talks to him and then desperately wants to have emotions because of him. So she does, and her name is Francesca. The synthetic people then attack them, causing Jake to have to fight back. Eventually he escapes with the help of Francesca, unsure what exactly to think of what just happened. Episode 2, Reality Shows. So, a lot of Season 29 is actually filler, and I don't really remember much of what happens in the filler, but I know that this one is about Rose and Cecily, that celebrity from Season 12 that Rose saved, getting trapped on some super dangerous reality show together and eventually figuring out that they're long-lost sisters. I don't really know why they have to be sisters, but okay, whatever. Episode 3, Group Mission. Oh my good gosh, why are these descriptors so vague? I don't remember what the frick this is, oh gosh. Episode 4, Dreamlock. Oh, that stupid concept is back. Yeah, I don't remember this one either. Probably Jake gets Dreamlock again, and we introduce Wreath to the concept of Dreamlock, because a lot of Wreath episodes tend to revolve around introduce this old thing Wreath doesn't know about so he can react to it. So that's probably what this is. Episode 5, Infiltration. Finally, back to the arc. So Jake finally decides it's about time to really investigate this unknown agency thing, so he and the team infiltrate the place and find their way to the top, where the president is waiting for them. It turns out that the president is, super plot twist, that Elise chick from the first Fugitive arc that used to be friends with Trey. No idea why she's here, but good on her for becoming an evil CEO, I suppose. She then sicks the synthetic humans on the team, declaring that she now has enough of a synthetic person army to declare war on Ilya. Then Jake falls out of a window. And cliffhanger. Episode 6, Ilya Lost. Yeah, we're going there. So Jake survives his window fall and he runs straight to the Wonder Girls to warn them about the synthetic army about to ravage Ilya. They gear up, and when the synthetic people come, they go to battle with them, and the rest of the team also made it out of the Unknown Agency building and meet Jake on the battlefield. Everyone fights hard, but there are too many synthetic people and they're losing really fast, so the Wonder Girls call for a retreat and fall back to try to figure out what to do next. Things aren't going well and everyone's in danger, so the Wonder Girls and the Lightning Speed team decide to retreat to another dimension while they figure out how to beat the synthetic people. And so, with that, the synthetic people win the battle and everyone retreats to another dimension. Ilya is lost. Insert jazz hands. So the next section of this arc is pretty much, let's figure out where to sit while we figure out what to do about the synthetic people. So yeah, that's what's happening. Roll Season 30. Season 30, Episode 1. Oh, wait, what? Cannibals? It's probably a very, 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 very good thing I can't remember a single thing about this episode. But on the other hand, what the heck was I doing with cannibals? Episode 2, Aldaria Jail. So in their search for a place to exist for a while, they try to go to Aldaria, aka that place Sydney comes from, but Aldaria doesn't want them there. Also, Aldaria figured out that Jake and Rose aren't actually from Aldaria, but people from Aldaria can't take the superhero test because that's illegal, so they throw Jake and Rose in jail. But the others break them out and they leave Aldaria because screw that place. Episode 3. This is awkward. My document doesn't have an episode here. Well, guess there's no episode here. Have a nice day, everyone. Episode 4, Mandy and Jade. Oh no. So, this is definitely an episode that has something to do with Mandy and Jade, duh, but I have no clue what it is, and it kills me that I can't remember. What really complicates things is that this episode has a star beside it. We'll talk more about what the stars mean later, but the stars on my document generally mean that an episode has something really important happen in it, but I cannot remember what that something is, so I guess it wasn't really that important after all. Wow, I sure wish I'd written things down. That sure would have been helpful. Episode 5, Infiltration of Centralia. The Wonder Girls and the Lightning Speed team finally decide it's about time to end this thing, so they sneak back into Centralia and try to find something in the Wonder Girl headquarters that will help them beat the synthetic people. And I can't remember what they find. Frick. Well, I'm sure the next episode will help me figure out how this whole thing ends, so Episode 6, End of Arc. Wow. Thanks, Past Me. I really appreciate that descriptive information you have given me on how this whole debacle ends. I really appreciate that. Well, since I don't remember, I might as well just make something up. So when they get to the Wonder Girl headquarters, they find the magic plot device item that allows them to mind control the synthetic people into being not evil. So Jake's team goes back to the Unknown Agency and fights Elise, and she dies, and the synthetic people are gone, so Ilya is saved. Hooray, we did it, everyone clap! The only thing I remember is that Elise dies in the end. I remember literally nothing else. I suppose this is as good an ending as we're gonna get. So with that arc out of the way, on to more filler. Season 31, Episode 1, Renee and Jonathan. Anyone that's been following this story for a while, particularly during the first reboot, has actually heard of Renee and Jonathan, the latter of whom actually had his name changed to Rowan somewhere down the line, but that's for later, and this is now, because I need to talk about Renee and Jonathan in this episode. Renee and Jonathan are also leftovers from another series I had a super long time ago, which is not only not the Wonder Girl series this time, thank goodness, but is also once again older than lightning speed. The series was super short-lived because I had no ideas for it. It was called The Sketchbook, and it super doesn't matter because it's not relevant at all to the happenings in this episode, but the history of it is still a thing, so there. So, in this episode, Jake gets dragged into another dimension and ends up in this spooky tower where two kids named Renee and Jonathan are trying to kill him with their spooky ink powers and their ability to bring their drawings to life. So Jake has to make it out of the tower, and he eventually learns from the kids' former guardian Charles that something ink demons, which are different from the demons that are already in the series, but I guess demons is the solution to everything. Jake eventually gets out of there, and we never hear about Renee and Jonathan again in LS1. Yay. Episode 2. Frick, not again. I remember exactly what the deal with this one was. Essentially, Season 31 was cobbled together from random bits and pieces because I had a huge creativity block at the time and was essentially throwing everything at the wall to see what worked. And at some point down the line, I must have forgotten to actually finish the season. So there's actually no Episode 2 or Episode 3. Wonderful! Past me really knows how to stay organized and to not forget to actually finish a dang season. Episode 4, Jake's Sad Death Thing. That is what I have been mentally referring to this episode as for 6 entire years. Jake's Sad Death Thing. The saddest thing about Jake's Sad Death Thing is that a lot of the details completely elude me. Essentially, Jake is forced to watch all his friends die. I know Rose dies in a motorcycle crash, and the other two I completely forget. And then he wakes up in a lab, and it turns out he's been in a nightmare induced by a bunch of machinery plugged into where his robot eye was. His friends are also here, and they're just fine, and they all go home. Wonderful. Want to know why his friends are here? Episode 5, Other Story on the Matter. So on the other side of this bizarre laboratory scenario, Rose, Mandy, and Wreath have also been captured and subjected to experiments, and I can literally only remember what happened to Mandy. She was turned into a horrifying fish creature, like Creature from the Black Lagoon or some crap like that. I cannot remember what happened to Rose and Wreath. Eventually, they find the guy responsible for the whole thing. I seriously don't remember who it is, although it's probably Demetrius, that guy from Season 23. That would be super on brand for the guy after his last appearance. They fight, Demetrius loses, the experiments get reversed through plot magic, then they find Jake. Oh, also during the fight, Rose gets a super bad chemical burn on her torso. Show of hands, who remembers Lucida's interdimensional bikini contests? Those of you that don't know are super confused right now, I'd reckon. Anyway, I made that comic as a way to reveal the whole chemical burn scenario since I'd also planned to use it in LS2, not realizing that there's literally no reason for it to be there, so it's not a thing anymore. Hooray! Getting that out of the way early since I'm definitely not going to find an opportunity to bring it up later. Episode 6, First Day of School plus Jade. Because when all else fails and ideas aren't coming easy, just go back to high school. Works every time. So Jake and the others go back to school at Dubose High again. I don't even know why Dubose High still lets them in, considering how often they come and go, but here we are. This time is a little different, though, because not only are Antius and Nias here again, but Perilous, Nightmare, and Red are also here for literally no reason. Shenanigans I don't remember ensue, and this is the status quo for Season 32. No, I don't know where Jade factors in, thank you very much. Season 32, Episode 1, Perilous plus Rose Dance. Yes, we're going there. Now, before I start summarizing this one, I just want to say that before I started doing all this, I was actually super confused about how all these dance episodes lined up. This episode actually appeared in my sarcastic summaries, blurred together with the FBI nonsense and the Liu stuff blurred with the dumb gang scenario, and it was a great big mess until I got everything straight, and here we are. So, Perilous and Rose. Yet another dance is coming up at Dubose High because this school has way too many freaking dances, and Jake feels the need to make it up to Liu for what happened last time with the whole FBI nonsense and all. Rose gets really huffy over the whole thing, though, so she schemes to take someone else to the dance with her to try to make Jake jealous again. Considering Reeth didn't work out last time, though, she asks Perellis to take her instead. Perellis is reluctant to go along with Rose's plan, but still does anyway. At the dance, though, it really seems like Rose and Perellis are falling for each other, which actually does end up making Jake at least the slightest bit jealous. He tells Rose to stop being so silly because he really does care about her, and Rose immediately ditches Perellis and goes back to being in love with Jake again. And then Jake and Rose dance, and they have their first kiss on the dance floor. Yeah, you heard that right. Jake and Rose are officially an item. Spread the word. We have a boyfriend-girlfriend scenario right here, right now. Amazing that it took Rose nearly hooking up with Perellis to push things to this point. Oh yeah, there's also something about Reeth and Mandy in there too, because Reeth has a massive crush on Mandy or something. Great. Episode 2, Rendezvous. Yes, that's a real episode title. That's because I actually wrote down a fair bit of this story. I plan to release it after all 6 of the other Jake backstory whatevers were released, but since most of them never actually finished, it was subsequently never finished or released. So I bet you didn't know that Season 32 was actually a story arc. This episode kickstarts it. So Red is talking to Nightmare one morning before school and happens to bring up that all his super cool demon powers are stuck inside that glass crown that appeared after Jake killed him, and he actually can't touch it. If it were to be broken, though, Red would get all of his powers back. Problem, though, the crown is being eyed by someone else, and that someone was hired by the Demon Council, who now kind of wants Red dead. So Nightmare's like, okay, that's cool, I'll just go do that for you right fast. And there are 0 complications, and it's done. That turns out to be a huge freaking mistake. So Red, now with all his power back, decides to enact his first act of revenge against the Demon Council for banishing him by brainwashing Antaeus into being his loyal demon servant right in the middle of English class. Meanwhile, Nias, Nightmare, and Perellis are in history class. There's a not-funny Battle of Bunker Hill reference, then they hear Antaeus scream because Red is brainwashing him, so they run to the English class. Nightmare and Red argue because something Red betrayed Nightmare or something, I don't get it, and then Nightmare races out of the building to fight Red on the football field. That goes about as well as you would think fighting an ultra-powerful demon would go. Red rips Nightmare's bone arms off. Wow, golly. So during all this, Nias went to go get Jake. The 2 of them arrive on the scene with Perellis, Rose, Mandy, and Reeth, and they all have to fight. Everyone else takes on Antaeus while Nias ends up challenging Red on his own because, wow, look at how swell that went for Nightmare. I bet it'll go just as well the second time. So Antaeus knocks out Mandy and Rose before Perellis pulls Jake to the side and is like, I have this gun you can use, so use it. Because I guess Perellis just really isn't going to pull his weight here. So after Reeth gets injured too, Jake puts the gun to use and kills Antaeus. After that, Perellis finally decides to do something and takes Antaeus' glass pendant to try to do the reverse thingy and fuse with Antaeus to bring him out of Red's control. Meanwhile, Red chucks Nias across the football field, and Nias has his skull bashed in by the goalpost. I told you that would end well. So Jake then tries to fight Red while Perellis is doing the thingy, but that ends up backfiring super badly and turns Perellis into a demon mindslave as well. Yippee! Everything just got 1,000,000 times worse. This is where the writing stops and where my memory begins. So Jake ends up having to fight Red and Antaeus and Perellis pretty much on his own because his entire team is down for the count. Then, somewhere in the middle of all this, Nightmare recites some kind of spell whatever and is able to put his arms back on and heal himself, and he fights Red with Jake and they win. Yeah, my memory is definitely not as great as having an actual story to go off of. Anyway, Nightmare heals Nias as well. Antaeus and Perellis return to normal. Red comes back without his powers again. Nightmare takes the crown to keep Red from getting his hands on it again and kicks Red out of his house and... Ah yes, we forgot that we're still at Dubose High and literally everyone just saw all these freaks of nature displaying all of their supernatural powers. Oops! Episode 3, FBI. Everyone is held at the school after the whole Red thing, and the FBI comes and does a whole heck lot of nothing. That's it. Nothing else. Wave goodbye to the FBI, too, because it's the last time they show up in the series. Hallelujah, thank goodness. Episode 4, Red Demon Test. So directly after the FBI does a whole heck lot of nothing, a group of hitmen for the Demon Council shows up. Marvelous. They grab Antaeus, then Red is like, you're not gonna catch me, and he unpossesses his nice clone body and takes Jake's body. They still get him anyway, but not before Red takes the real Nias' body instead. Oh, and Red also reveals that he killed Dahlia somewhere in all this. That's right, Red killed Dahlia. Dahlia's gone. Goodbye, Dahlia. This gets Antaeus understandably pissed. So Antius and Red are both captured and taken to the Demon Council to be tried for their crimes or something like that. Then they're both thrown in a room together to await their punishment, and Red is super creepy towards Antius, so Antius duct tapes Red to the wall for the entire night. Oh yeah, did I forget to mention that Red is madly super obsessively in love with Antius for literally no reason? Pretty big thing about Red's LS1 character I forgot to mention. My bad. Anyway, come morning, the two are taken to be executed in the fire pits of eternal pain or something dumb like that. They're shoved in, but Antius manages to catch hold of a rock sticking out of the wall and also grabs Red to keep him from falling in too. Red is confused, he and Antius have a back and forth, and Red realizes that having friends is way better than being a demon, and he really wants Nightmare's friendship back. So he and Antius ex-machina their way out of there somehow and escape the underworld. Yay! Episode 5, Antius's brother. Yeah, brother. I think I mentioned this once back in 2014, but yes, Antius has a brother. We meet him in this episode. So Antius and Red are still on the run from the Demon Council, and they decide to try to head back to the Villains League, but they find out another demon hitman has gotten there before them. Antius recognizes the hitman as his older brother, Antivon, because names are not my specialty, and also he has a different last name than Antius at Stella Reese, because screw actually sensible names for anything. So Antivon catches on that Antius and Red are here, and he starts to try to go after them. Antius and Red fight him and the other demons with him, only to find out that they're evenly matched. So there's only one way to resolve this whole deal, with a time-honored demon tradition. Now, there's a lot of stories that back in 2014 I absolutely mangled trying to retell without context. One of them was the Wreath stabbing Jake 27 times through a steel chestplate deal from the Death Game thing. Another one of them was what's about to happen right now. Antius and his brother have a demon drinking contest where Antius wins by downing 19 bottles of vodka. This somehow resolves the entire plot and lets Antius and Red off the hook scot-free. I'd also assume Red resolves the whole body situation and mends his friendship with Nightmare sometime after this. I'm dead inside. Episode 6, WG Tournament. If you thought we were done with this arc, you were sorely mistaken. So the Wonder Girls have caught wind of the whole everyone at Dubose High saw the Superpower Show debacle, and they arrest Jake, his team, and all the not Jakes, and throw them in jail. But there's a twist. In 3 days, they'll be able to fight for their freedom in a tournament with the Wonder Girls, with each of the Jakes taking on one of the Wonder Girls. But there are only 3 Wonder Girls left after the Wonder Girl X thing. How are they going to fight all 6 of the Jakes with only 3 Wonder Girls? They get new Wonder Girls, of course! There are 3 new Wonder Girls now. One of them is some chick named Judy, who isn't important at all and is a carryover from the Wonder Girl series. One of them is Isabel, who they just shot up with Wonder Girl powers, I suppose. And the third is the head Wonder Girl's 17-year-old daughter, Mallory. Anyway, while they're in jail, the Jakes train for the fight together with dodgeballs and also study for their biology test. Okay, I don't have a lot of information for anything past season 25, but for seasons 32 and 33, I actually have these really vague sketch dumps I did to try to chronicle the most important bits of the season, and there are 2 images for episode 6, and one of them is Jake in a prison uniform with a dodgeball and a biology textbook, and I really couldn't explain what it actually means. I'm sorry, I'm at a loss. Anyway, the day of the fighting tournament actually comes, so they do the fighting tournament. There are very few results I actually remember. Nias definitely loses his fight because of course he does. I just remember that the results come super close until Jake fights a head Wonder Girl and wins. Oh, there's also Nightmare's fight against Mallory, which isn't actually a fight. Nightmare just flirts with Mallory and wins her heart, and her mother is super ticked off about it. These 2 are in love now. Deal with it. Anyway, because Jake won, everyone is let off scot-free, and no consequences ever come of it, because this arc needed to end somehow, and this is how we're doing it. Arc over. Congratulations. What a stupid arc. Anyway, next time we meet, things are going to escalate. Next time, we're entering the beginning of the end.